Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stu and the Crew. I'm your host, Jonathan Stewart. Today we have the legend, the one and only Jake Delhomme. Delhomme.
What's up?
Delhomme. What's good,
How
man?
it's all good, man. It's Panthers got 4 wins compared to 3 losses. It feels like it's been a long time, but it feels good, man.
Yeah, it has been a long time, Jake. The time that we get to spend in the booth watching you and Luke call the games on Sundays, on game days. It's been really fun hearing you guys being able to talk about what's actually happening that's going right for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah,
It's
it's been a
it,
while. Stu, you sit right behind us, and I think our fandom, our loyalty, our blood. It's deep. It's Carolina blue, and that's what we feel. And it's been frustrating. It's been hard, and that's why I think I knew how much I enjoyed doing the radio because we've had some tough times, and I've still enjoyed it. But you could just kind of start to feel and see going into this season that I think things are starting to turn a little bit, right? And we never knew where the quarterback situation was going to go. We've gone through many of them ever since Ron Rivera when I first started doing this in 2019, and Cam was still here, and so it's been kind of up and down, a bunch of different quarterbacks, and we don't need to go through all of them, but that's just kind of the way it went. Then we made a commitment, a big commitment to go up to get Bryce, and there was some questions early on and the way he played last year, and you're just looking forward to, okay, what can another round of free agent signings and another draft let Dan Morgan's kind of put his stamp on the team. And so there was optimism. And certainly it started out rough, right? In Jacksonville. That's the game that you left there saying, not again. That it's just kind of what it felt like. And then go to Arizona and then spot them 10 points. And you just see us. We didn't know who we were as a team because we're down by 20 points at half. Um, and then just get that Atlanta win. Everybody felt good. Then you lay an egg in New England. And then now starting to see, yeah, we beat Miami, ran the ball extremely well. We beat Dallas, ran the ball extremely well, made plays, defense showing up, run defense, things like that. And then you went to New York, a game which I don't know. I don't understand point spreads a lot, but I think we were the underdog. That kind of blows my mind some. But anyway, so we go up there, and in essence, it was kind of like we played keep away or make it take it, whatever you want to say. Like, hey, we got a lead, defense is rolling, offense, and give the Jets credit. They have some salty players on defense, some really good quality players.
Yeah, Quentin
Um,
Williams was a bit of a problem for us in that
he's a
game.
problem for everybody. It's not just
Mm.
us. He's a problem for everybody. But yeah, and they have a lot of other good players, some first round picks on that D line, and so I thought we did a decent job, and we probably left a couple of points out on the field. I think we'd all say that, but we got the win, and now we come back home. Um, and it's the Buffalo Bills. And so when the
Yeah.
season first started, I never forget, I was doing something with the schedule release. And as the first thing I noticed, our first playoff team this year is not until late October against Buffalo. So the schedule to me was like, okay, we let's get some momentum, let's get some wins, because we know this is a beast coming in, and they're coming off of a embarrassing loss to Atlanta on Monday night. They had a bye. They're going to start to get some fresh bodies back, and yeah, they have a quarterback who might be okay. In case you didn't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, Josh Allen is a havoc. But he seems like he's going through some struggles.
they
Uh,
are.
you know,
They. I just. It's like maybe a little bit. He's just so darn talented and good, and yeah, they. I know that Atlanta game was they lost to New England at home, who's proven to be New England's a quality football team. That is a
mhm.
good football team with a young quarterback who is not taking the next step. He's taking the next leap, right?
Yeah, his
And
trajectory is out
yeah,
there, and he hasn't even been touched yet.
correct. And then Atlanta, they did a great job of running Bijan Robinson. They played really well against Buffalo, and Buffalo had it. Just goes to show you the first play of that game. They're lined up in the neutral zone, which really and
Yeah,
truly had no effect on the play, and they make him fumble, and Buffalo recovers in Atlanta territory, but it's null and void because of the neutral zone infraction, and no telling how that game would have changed if it would have been that way. So this game's very funny, man, very funny.
yeah. I always wonder what other guys' takes were, division games, conference games, the Bills coming in town, they're AFC. And as a competitor, you want to win every single game, right? And that's the player's job. That's the player's mindset that keeps him elevated, right? But as a coach, as a GM, you have management to do, right? You got guys that are banged up. You got to figure out which games are that you're going to push him to come back. Bryce Young just came out that he had a high ankle sprain. As a quarterback, what is your mindset? When you are dealing with, an injury, knowing that you kind of have to have a bit of a responsibility mindset as a GM, as a coach, because you are the leader of the team, right? So, what is your mindset as a quarterback dealing with the high ankle sprain? Like, how impactful is that as far as your position play? Looking at Bryce Young,
I think the biggest thing is this: if you can play, if you can go, you're going. I mean, that's
yeah,
the mindset. There's this. I think all positions, but I think especially quarterback positions. If you can go, you're going.
mm,
Um, and listen, it's still so early in the week. We're waiting to see exactly how it plays out. You hear reports of a high ankle. I mean, who knows?
yeah,
I had one toward the latter part of my career. It was difficult. And it reoccurred along with something else. And so that is difficult. And I think a lot of it depends on what leg it is. Is it your drive leg, or that you push off of, or is it you kind of your landing leg? So I think a lot depends. And y- mobility wise too, you want to make sure you're not putting your team at harm. I think
mm,
that's what you have to do. And so that's going to be up to the coaches and Bryce. I mean, I think that's one thing that we've seen with Bryce. He's tough.
yeah.
He got sacked his rookie year. Gosh,
Got
if I'm not
pummeled.
mistaken, like 66 times, and no telling how many he got out of. He took a ton of sacks. We've seen him. He's very tough. He takes hits, and he's tough. When he walked off the field, okay, there's probably an issue there because that's just not him. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out during the course of the week. But if you can go, you go. I mean, it's very simple. If you can go, you go.
Yeah, I've had my share of high ankle sprains, and you go
Not
when
you.
you go.
You've had no foot or ankle issues. I don't ever recall that.
Oh man. Yeah, practice was not part of the plan for me.
You know,
It
I
was
laugh. I One of my favorite players ever in Carolina, Stephen Davis, right? And I saw him a couple of weeks ago for the Legends weekend, and he just puts a smile on my face, everyone's face,
mhm.
makes us laugh. And I just laugh. I'm like, you got Stephen Davis who never wanted to practice, but if you needed to give him the ball 32 to 36 times on Sunday and run power for 20 of those times, he wasn't coming out, and he was just going
Yeah.
to get stronger as the game went on. Then you have Jonathan Stewart who wanted to practice and tried, he just couldn't because
Yeah.
he physically couldn't. He couldn't
I
move.
used
He
to
couldn't
I
practice.
used to be out there limping through plays and basically slowing practice up and timing up and all kind of stuff. And eventually Coach Skip was like, "Hey, we need to work something out here, RV. Let's just sit this boy
Exactly.
out until
E-
Friday."
Exactly right. Exactly.
Uh,
You have to know what works.
yeah.
Some people can't do that. Some people have to practice. I mean, that's the difference. And you learn that as a coach. Some guys, it's not that they don't want to practice, it's just physically it's hard, and they can do the mental reps, and that translates in the game. Whereas other guys, they have to have the physical reps.
Yeah, I agree. We saw Andy Dalton just, you know, buckled up his chin strap and just went into the game.
Right.
That happens often for the quarterback. And I always wanted, I'm sure the fans want to listen and hear what is that mindset? What is that mind shift to get yourself up for, going into mid game and the game has high stakes, or it's, it was 13-6, I think it was, or 13-3. And you have to go in there and manage the game and not screw it up. But you also have to meet everyone else where they are as far as their intensity level. Like, how do you get yourself to that point as a backup?
Well, so I know for me, when I look at it, and this is where I'm going with this. Just bear with me. So, like my first 6 years in the league, I was practice squad, third string, and then backup. Right. So I never played. I never had that experience of playing. So I did get thrown in there a couple of times in the 2002 season, my final year in New Orleans, and I was able to have success late in the year in big games and big moments. But it was huge for me because I went in, we played Tampa on a Sunday night. And that's the year they won it all, and we were able to beat them. And I was able to make a throw late in the game to so we can kneel it out. But you prepare like crazy during the week, and that's something that I think I always did. I learned from a veteran quarterback how to prepare, be ready to play. And I
Kurt
went in,
Warner.
no, we were teammates in NFL Europe. It was Billy Joe Tolliver, and and Mike McCarthy was our offensive coordinator. So we had a set structure on how we prepared during the week, and that's what I learned, and that carried with me the rest of my career. But you always stay ready. And I like to wear a helmet, the backup quarterback, and kind of call the play in my head. What's my hot? What's my protect? What's my adjustments? What I need to read and things like that. So you got to stay mentally sharp, right? It's not chewing sunflower seeds and kind of lollygagging on the sidelines. And so that was always the mindset. Whereas Andy, he was drafted in the second round. He became a starter. He started for a decade. He won the division how many times in Cincinnati, playoffs. He has so much experience, right? And he's had experience in coming into games here in Carolina. He knows the system, knows the players. The coaches trust him, the players trust him, they believe in him. So he's done that. That's like old hat to him, right?
Yeah.
So it's and in Andy's nature and getting to know him, he's a smart guy and he prepares. It's not like this is just collecting a check. I mean, he loves it. He truly loves it. And I think having that youth in the room with Bryce. I mean, Bryce is young. Him and they're young guys, and Andy doesn't feel like an old grizzly veteran, which he is, but he doesn't feel that way. He still looks young and moves young. So I think that's like old hat to him. Like, yep, all right, going in. All right, boys, here we go.
Hmm.
It's what we're gonna do. And so that's just a confidence level I think the team has with him, and he has within the offense. Like, I know where the pitfalls are, I know where the traps are, but I can get out of it. That's what a veteran quarterback does. I think those are just invaluable to have on a team. That's just my opinion. And but
Yeah.
he has all that experience and he knows what it takes. And look, he went in the other day, and what happens? The ball comes out his hand, just boom, 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 boom. Real
Mm.
fast, and you know the young guys, they're going to have to speed up, honestly, a little bit. JT Sanders, he hit him. I think he surprised him. That's a catch that
Oh yeah.
JT
He
is going
kind
to
of
say,
fumbled
man,
it. Yeah, he kind of
exactly.
fumbled it around right there, trying to run before he caught it. Right.
Right. And I think he's going to be like, oh my gosh. And that's one thing that's what Andy does. Like a veteran, they see things just a little quicker. And Bryce sees them fast, but it's going to continue to get faster for Bryce. So, yeah, it's those guys, it's a comfort level having them, having
Yeah.
that veteran.
You speaking of comfort level, because basically you just explained confidence, right? Um, you know, having the experiences, having the opportunities to play in real life games, and being a starter in Andy Dalton's situation does uh give him the confidence. Uh, you know, comfort. You have two running backs, Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. I have my take on it because I've lived it. Um, and I feel like you have a special take on it because you've also lived it multiple times.
Yeah,
You've
I
had
agree.
the opportunity to play with a backfield that had two starters in one depth room, one depth chart. So give me what that comfort feels like from a quarterback's perspective, especially Andy Dalton, right? We have a veteran coming into a different situation than he has the last couple years, where the running game is sharp. I think the play calling is getting in rhythm and in sync. It's going to be night and day for him as far as what it was like last year when he played the Raiders. So with Rico Dowdle and all the people talking about, trying to make this a beef thing of pick either or. Can you please help people realize the blessing in disguise that we have right now?
Well, you're the perfect one to explain it. it's I talked to you about this right after the Dallas game,
Hmm.
in the booth. Like, I wish people could understand. Chuba's going. We had an idea he'd come back against the Jets. How beneficial it is to have two of them, two battering rams, because I saw I saw Rico cramp up against Miami, and I saw him cramp up against Dallas because of the volume of carries. But it never slowed him up. But he was able to miss it. He had to miss a few plays
Hmm.
because he's given everything he has. And I think Canales said it great last week. Empty the tank on every run. And last week we ran the ball fine, not as much success, but I think that's something to do with the Jets defense. We played some poor run defenses the previous 2 weeks. We really did, in Miami and Dallas. So I think we need to address that.
Yeah.
But I think they both did some great things last week, and Chuba's coming off of a couple of calves, right?
Yeah.
That's your explosion, right? To me,
Yeah.
that's difficult. Whereas Rico, he's seeing it and he's exploding, and he looked great, and I thought Chuba looked fine too. And I think you saw it on that screen pass down the sideline when he outran all of his blockers, all the
Yeah, he didn't give it.
linemen.
I think he
He didn't give
forgot
the
to give
go
a go
call.
signal.
He just wants to make sure he caught it first. But yeah, I think that's such a blessing because we want to run the football. That's what Dave Canales, I mean, his DNA says that. Let's run the football, control it, because ultimately that's how you win consistently in the National Football League. So it's such a blessing. And both guys, to know Chuba, and I don't know Rico that well at all, but to know
Hmm.
Chuba and what he's been about, fourth round pick who just worked, and when he's got a chance, he just took full advantage of it. But to hear the other players, coaches, trainers, equipment managers talk about him, I mean, he's a guy who sometimes sleeps at the facility, the way he takes care of his body and
Yeah.
practices, and such a leader. And you hear the stories about him and Trimble stay after practice for hours, just catching jugs, like continuing to get better. So there's just a respect. And it sounds like Rico's the same way. There's no animosity. And you can speak to it. You save your body. I mean, with 17
Yeah.
games, we're not even halfway. I mean, you get beat in the National Football League physically. So just to have those two, and I asked you about it, and you said, "Listen, I know it was my series. I'd run, 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 but if you knew, God, I need a blow, I
Yeah.
just
I
D'Angelo would
tap my
go in
head,
and
and
tap my
and
head,
you
and
don't
that's
feel bad about coming out, right?
no,
You
that's
feel you actually
exactly.
feel the actual true relief of the reason why you're coming out of the game is because you're tired, and you're going to have you have the ability and the opportunity to help the team, because if you're
That's what
not
I'm
gonna,
saying. You're doing what's best for the team.
yeah, if
That's the
you're,
ultimate goal, right?
yeah,
That's what you're doing. Yes.
that's it wholeheartedly. And when I know if I broke a 40-yard run after I just had like two carries that were like 5, 8, 10, and they're not just coasting through the line of scrimmage type runs, they're bruising, running load power, getting hit, boom, coming off of guys, and I break a long run, and vice versa if D'Angelo did the same. I need a break so that way we can continue the momentum, right? And that's what I think people are missing out on here is, you know, don't count the reps, make the reps count. And that's a large part of what this is going to take in that running back room is, yeah, as long as you're playing especially if you're playing from a lead, you're going to get your carries. You're going to get your
You
touches.
that's the thing. You play from a lead, right? And so, I can talk about experience playing, having you and D'Angelo in the same backfield. But I can go back to my times with the Saints. We had Ricky Williams and Deuce McAllister, both in their prime.
Oh,
For I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 years together. That's a long time ago. But like you had those two. And then I get to Carolina and you had Steven, and then you had Deshaun, who Steven, you knew he was toward the end of the career, but he just still had gas in the tank. And Deshaun was the young up and comer who no one knew how good he could be because he had the microfracture surgery. And I'm
yeah.
dating myself. No one knew if you could come back from microfracture. And so we had those two, and but they were friends. They were such good friends off the field. It was never an issue. I don't know if that has something to do with it. And I don't know what Chuba and Rico's relationship off the field, but I do know this when I see the clips on from Panthers.com of the locker room speech after the game when Chuba did not dress out and Rico had those two massive games and Canales is reading the stats. If you look in the background, there's Chuba's smiling face,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
happy and excited for his teammates, and that's not fake. That's not fake.
No, it's
So
not.
that I don't know. I think that means something. I think it means something because he gets it. He understands. He sees the bigger picture.
When do you know that a team has reached the emotional connection needed with each other to start this new chemistry that is long lasting? You know what I'm saying? The culture, we talk about culture, but really it's just connection to one another. When do you start realizing that, and what does it look like in the locker room?
Stu, I think when a team starts to grow, I think it happens. You kind of get a baseline in training camp. And then it kind of during the season, there's got to be a point in time during the season where you just realize it just starts to happen. All right. And I can only
Mm,
draw from my past experiences. Right. So I go back to the '03 season. Okay. Our Super Bowl year. Well, I get thrown in at halftime. We win the first game. Yeah. That's awesome. Right. That was great. We won. Well, the next week we're going to play Tampa in Tampa, Super Bowl champs, defense dominant. We
yeah.
were awful on offense. Our eye was awful. We couldn't run it. It was like I think that we went to overtime because it was like 10-10. Not, it was something just our defense just kept us in the game. And Smitty ran a punt back that put us in field goal range for John to kick because it wasn't anything we did offensively. So we had 1 week where offensively we win the game. Then the next week defense does. And so we're rolling a little bit. We're making some plays. And we win the third game, then we win the fourth game, and then we win the fifth game in overtime. And so it's like, okay, who are we? We kind of starting to sense who we are. And then we played Tampa again. We're like 7-2 or 6-2 at the time. Stephen Davis couldn't play, and he was the bell cow. He was leading the league in rushing, and everybody knew that's who we were. Mean defense, tough defense, run the ball, run the ball. So he couldn't play against the defending Super Bowl champs. And sure enough, we were able to beat him. I was able to throw a touchdown pass to Steve on a 2-minute drive. And I just think that
It's
right
the
then and there,
belief. Like
we
when
proved that we didn't need our stud to win the game. Somebody found a way. And that was the great thing. You got in the huddle and it was eyes of I can make the play instead of who's going to make the play.
right.
And so that's what starts to happen. So our defense would watch us like, yep, we're going to win it. We're going to throw a touchdown or run a touchdown in, or John's kicking a field goal, and vice versa. When that happened, if we took a lead and defense needed to close it out, yep, go ahead, Julius, go make a sack.
Yeah.
All
It's
right,
that
all
it's
right.
that expectation of
That's
guys rising to the occasion.
right.
Like
And
I remember with
yes,
Cam, being in a huddle with Cam, it's like, oh, we're gonna win this game. And we can be down by 20. And,
right,
and it can be fourth quarter. But for whatever reason, we're gonna win the game because I see guys in this huddle that I believe in. And then even when the defense is out there, the expectation that they're going to get a stop, they're going to get a pick, a strip sack, something, right? And it goes to show you the belief comes from proof. You see it happen. Once you start seeing it happen, it's like, oh, we can do this.
right,
And I think the Jets game is one of those games where you have to win the ugly games. That was an ugly game, and it was gritty, and the expectation was for someone to make a play. And J.C. Horn, 2
yeah,
interceptions. The first one, he went and got that. The
right,
second one, he ran the route. And again, it comes from the preparation, it comes from all these things, but the expectations are starting to change around here. That's what I'm the when you start expecting guys to do certain things, it's because you start to know them. You have this connection. For whatever reason, your locker room time, your bus rides, the airplane rides, you start to really understand guys, and you actually start to pump confidence into them, right? Because you're around them all day. Because I remember times where I'd be like Mike Tolbert, right? That's my guy. And I'd come in, I'm injured, banged up or whatever. And Tolbert would be like, hey man, don't worry, dog. We got you at practice this week.
Right.
Right. But that gave me confidence in knowing that he understood where I was at. And I also knew, man, I need to make sure that I can like bring it on Sunday
It
because
was an
he,
expectation. You couldn't
yeah,
let him down. You
exactly.
you couldn't let him, and but that starts, and you talk about, and I think it builds in practice. We would have Panther on Panther every day, and what I mean by that, during the season, it was first O versus first D, and even though we're playing, just pick a team, our defense is not the same. It didn't matter. We're going to run whatever plays we're putting in that week against whatever our defense is putting in. But you go back to your base answer, your base rules. You got to play. And we do good on good. Panther versus Panther. We do it on Wednesday. We do it on
Yep.
Thursday. And on Friday, we'd finish a 2-minute drill. And it was either we needed a touchdown or a field goal. And they'd give the scenario. And it wasn't what the other team did defensively on a 2-minute drive, is what we did. But you stayed sharp. I
Mhm.
was either so mad when I came off the field on Friday or so happy. It was one of the two. There was no
Yep.
in between, because that's exactly it was an expectation, a confidence, and we went and we competed. And so, and I think that just you develop it. And you talked about Tolbert. Don't worry, I'll take care of you. We had a Friday where we did short yardage and goal line, and Brad Hoover ran something in the flat real quick, and somebody grabbed him from behind, practice squad guy, like to cover him, and it kind of yanked his hamstring. And there was a hush over the practice field because you knew we had one fullback, right?
Mhm.
And that's what we did. I mean, a fullback, I don't know if fullbacks get enough credit for how important they are on the football team. And it was like, wow, okay, that's our starting fullback. Without missing a beat, Chris Mangum, our starting tight end, looks at Dan Henning, and it was quiet. And he goes, "Hey Dan, don't worry about it. Make Wiggins start at tight end. I'll start at fullback." And that was it.
Wow.
Nothing else was said because everybody knew Chris knew fullback just as well as he knew tight end. And we went right back in the huddle, and Chris went to the starting fullback, and Wiggins just went started tight. I mean, there was no questions
Yeah.
asked. But
That's
that's a
a
team. You're right. That's when you start to, those guys that put in the work, right? And they're ready. They're
yeah.
always ready.
Stay ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. the okay. Well, with everything that the Carolina Panthers have gone through the last 7, 8 years, I'm a big hindsight guy now. Like I
Okay.
like to I
You're
like
getting
to
older.
I'm getting old. So I always think back like, man, what did I learn during that time? You know, for the fans that are listening, if there's a player that runs into this podcast and hears anything, I believe that Jake, you've gone through something during your time of testing, of losing seasons, injuries. The Carolina Panthers have gone through a lot of that the last 7 years, and we're starting to see a little bit of light. But I think it's so important to remember the lessons, right? And for you specifically, if there's one thing that you can go back to and point to, hindsight looking back, this is what made me the player that I was and the man that I am today. Like, what would that have been?
And that's a good question. You're getting deep on me.
Yeah, man, I want to get deep. We got to pull
Hmm.
this out, man.
Yeah. I think for me, um, I I always I love to practice. I love to practice. I love playing a game. I love practice. I love sports, right? I always enjoy it. It was never a chore for me, to be quite honest. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. And so, yeah, I start 4 years in high school, I start 4 years in college, you get to the NFL. Okay. I'm trying to make a practice squad. You know what I mean? So it's like, so it took a little while, right, to get up to speed. The NFL is so different. And I think, like for me, it was always about preparation, right? I can still hear Mike McCarthy, the knowledge is power. I can still hear that ringing in my ear constantly. And we had something called quarterback school, and that was can't do it anymore because of the off-season rules now. But we were 7 to 5 Monday through Thursday, all in the off-season, and it was fabulous. I mean, it was
Hmm.
because it helped open my eyes to the National Football League, and you feel ready in any situation. And so I know for me, I got challenged by Mike in 2000. I was going to be the third string. There was Aaron Brooks and Jeff Blake was the starter, Aaron Brooks and myself. I was going to be the three. And Mike, um, I I knew him. I knew Mike, right? But I wasn't their guy, right? I was an incumbent. I was already with the Saints. These other two guys, they signed Jeff Blake in the offseason to a big deal. So he was their pick. They traded for Aaron Brooks, gave up a second round pick. He was their guy. So I had to win a job through the preseason. And I did, but just shut my mouth and working. So, but Mike was like, hey, I want you to do a quarterback tip sheet every week. I said, okay. Absolutely. And what do you want it to consist of? And he said, look, we'll start on Wednesday and whatever we put in every day. So base run checks, anything new that week, check with me. The base blitzes, what do they like to bring out of certain looks? The highlights. And then next thing you know was the sub package. So the third down, and then all the red zone tips. And then Friday was a short yardage goal line, 2-minute reminders and things like that. So that was something that I did every week. And I'd hand it to the secretary before we walked out to practice on Friday, and it's something I took pride in. And it was 2 to 3 pages long, but it was just it highlighted whatever was new or whatever was, and that was something that I took great amount of pride in. And I never slacked on it because I always had that constant fear of, man, what if you don't do it and it costs us a game? That's always something that
Yeah.
just kind of rang, and I stayed with that. I stayed with that, and I always did it. And it happened the first year. Well, we're in the playoffs, and we're playing the Rams in the playoffs, and we would try to steal signals from the other team. And that was, back then the coach quarterback communication system was not in the helmet as it is now. And so you just try to watch signals during the course of the game and get something, and you just try to pair it together in between series. Okay, he did something the DC did something abnormal. They ran this certain coverage, this certain pressure, and so we picked up on something. He did a certain uh, he had a hand gesture to the side on the right, and it was a Sam Strong safety blitz. And it happened twice in the game. And both times he did that signal, it happened. And sure enough, big play in the game. We need a first down to close out the game. And sure enough, he gave the signal. And I alerted it to Mike McCarthy to tell Aaron in the helmet, hey, Sam Strong safety. And sure enough, a timeout gets called. So we go back out on the field, and it's loud in the Superdome. And I can see the linebacker, they're waiting to get the call back in again. When he gives it again, I looked at Mike, I said, he gave it again. So he tells Aaron, hey, be alert. And so sure enough, they brought it, and we gashed them right where they came from. Aaron was able to hold on a little longer because he made a check, knowing. And that was just validation. It's like the preparation, the knowledge is power. Everything we did during the week to get us ready, and that just always just kind of stuck with me. When you give yourself a chance, and you give your team a chance on
Hmm.
Sunday because it's the smallest of margins.
Yeah. And two, that just speaks to everyone has a job,
Right.
right? Everyone has a job, and no matter what you think your job is, it is it requires you to do it because it can be very impactful. Um, and you never know when your time is called, right? You never know
Yeah.
when your work is going to be put to proof. Uh, so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Jake Delhomme dropping that knowledge.
Uh-huh.
Man, thank you for your time, bro. I won't keep you long. I know you got house things to tend to, house
Real
owner
life
you,
stuff, right?
real
Real life
life
stuff.
problems.
Yeah.
No, but thank you, man. This is week 8. Hopefully, we come away with a 5-3 record against the Bills, and I'll see you this weekend. You'll be there this week. You're calling the game this weekend, right?
100%. I'll be there. It'll
Yep.
be a great opportunity, man. It's
It'll be
a,
nice it'll be nice to know if you come in town early and I can meet you for a drink.
hey, you never know. That could maybe happen. But hey, think about it. We're playing Carolina North, right?
Yeah,
Brandon Bean,
yeah.
McDermott, a bunch of other guys. So yeah. But it's a true measure. We're going to play our first playoff team from last year. So let's
Yeah.
see how we stack.
Let's see how we stack up against
Right.
a playoff contender. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Stu and the Crew podcast. We are out.